time has finally come. That's right. We're going to delve into the Bard class for 5th edition D&D. Some of you have been requesting this, and I've been wanting to do this for a while now, as the Bard is the character class that I most identify with personally. As always, I'll go through the features from levels 1 through 20, rating each feature from F through S tier. Then I'll go through all the features of the various subclasses, known as Bard colleges. And at the end of the video, we'll get a ranking of the subclasses as compared to each other. Of course, I'm expecting greatness to abound, but we shall see. And even my own self-same class will not escape my usual critical assessment. The classes in D&D draw much inspiration from popular media, like games, movies, series, and comics. But all of this is rooted in history, in mythology, and in literature. The Bard, of course, is no exception. We can trace the lineage of the concept of the Bard back through European history, through the Celts, the Gauls, the Romans, the ancient Greeks, and indeed, the word Bard itself goes all the way back to Proto-Indo-European roots. The Bard is a storyteller, a poet, a musician, a traveler, a keeper of lore and history, one who is connected to both the mundane and the mystical. He is involved in the real or even the mundane world of social entertainment, yet he also dwells in the world of spirits, wizards, and gods, a supernatural realm that has to do with the inner workings of existence and the magic that infuses everything. In D&D, the Bard is somewhat similar to the Sorcerer, being a charisma-based spellcaster that knows a set number of spells, but he's also somewhat similar to the Wizard, being that he also studies magic and lore and has a collective element to him. Also, there is a wondrous amount of variety in the types of spell effects that he can produce, which reminds us of the Wizard. And the Bard also has some similarity with the Rogue, with an inclination towards skill and utility, and often having a dashing or charming persona. In fact, beyond even these, the Bard has similarities with virtually all the classes in some kind of way. If you think about all the variety and the theatrical nature of the Bard, the storytelling and the inspiration that's intrinsic to the class, it's like a representation of the game itself. This makes sense, as the arts themselves represent life. Through the arts we express our eternal quest to understand who we are, where we come from, and what our purpose is. From poetry and books, to painting and drawing, to acting and dancing, to singing and playing instruments, the various arts are the lifeblood of a culture. We can't live without it. It's a counterpart to the truism that man does not live by bread alone. Music in particular, I think, is a powerful force. I don't know about you, but music is a huge part of my life. It inspires me and it motivates me. Music can transport us to a different state of being. The greatest of these moments, whether you're listening to amazing music in private or attending a spectacular live show, are truly spiritual experiences, and perhaps one of the closest things to real magic that we can experience. Music is everything. The history of the Bard class in D&D is a peculiar one, and it actually began as the rarest and most difficult class to play in 1st edition. You had to be a human or half-elf, and you had to have a minimum of 15 strength, 15 dexterity, 10 con, 12 intelligence, 15 wisdom, and 15 charisma. You actually had to begin as a fighter. Then after 5th level, you had to multi-class into Thief or Rogue. Then after 5 levels of Thief, you had to multi-class into a Druid. But you're actually called a Bard from then on, and you receive certain abilities such as Druid spells, some specialized lore and knowledge, and the ability to charm people with your songs. In 2nd edition, Bards became more accessible and standardized, now part of the Rogue group. They were jacks of all trades, with a great number of rogue skill talents, some wizard spells, some weapon proficiencies, and bardic music and lore. 3E, bards continued along with this path, less of a druidic lorekeeper and more of a multi-talented mage, rogue, wandering musician. They switched from wizardry to more sorcerer-like magic, now using charisma, and they became a noteworthy support class that could bolster their allies in a variety of situations. 4E brought bards truly into their own, separating them from the crossovers with other classes' features and spells, and providing a slew of unique magical effects that produced about every kind of thing you could think of, from healing and support to control to damage. In 4E terms, they were arcane leaders. While this edition made strides in solidifying the bard as its own class that stands on its own ground and progresses like any other, it also suffered from 4E's downside of making everything too standardized and too mechanical, which mainly was a problem for the spellcasters. 5E has done for the bard what it has done for the entire game. It's taken some of the greatest hits from all the editions, largely what worked well in 3E and 4E, sprinkled in some old school nods, and of course developed a lot of new ground. The bard continues to shine by its own merit, sharing a bit still with the rogue, the wizard, the sorcerer, and maybe some other classes, yet it has plenty of exclusive features that give it distinct character. I'm excited to get into the fine details of the bard and its associated subclasses. So, let's dive in. Hit die. The bard has a D8 hit die, which is average and better than the wizard and the sorcerer, but worse than the fighter and the ranger. Armor. You are proficient with light armor only. This essentially gives you +2 to AC, because 5E is kind of wonky when it comes to armor. Let's look at what's going on with light armor, for example. Padded armor is AC 11 plus Dex. For some nonsensical reason, it imposes disadvantage on stealth checks. So all this means no one ever uses padded armor. Ever. This is a shame, because the broad category of padded, quilted, and gambeson type armor is quite good in reality. It is a practical, inexpensive, widely used type of armor, probably the most common type of armor throughout all of history. Even on the cheap end, any commoner or militia conscript could layer cloth to provide basic light protection, whereas only those with money and status could afford mail or plate armor. Leather armor in 5e gives you AC 11 plus Dex, the same, just without the stealth disadvantage, which still really is not good and pretty much no one ever uses it. Studded leather is AC 12 plus Dex, and this is the light armor that everyone uses. Leather armor from modern video games and movies is often highly romanticized or really stylized, and there's this endless debate as to what actual historical leather armor really was like. There probably didn't ever exist studded leather per se. Studded leather doesn't even completely make sense if you really think about it. Though there probably were some suits of armor that used rivets to connect plates of boiled leather, and there was brigandine, which also used rivets to affix small steel plates inside of a jacket of cloth or leather. So, whatever. In my games, I tell the players that if their character wears light armor, they can just take AC 12 plus Dex and then just whatever cosmetic style that they prefer for their character. Thanks, 5e. Weapons. You are proficient with all the simple weapons, plus the hand crossbow, longsword, rapier, and short sword. It's the same weapon proficiencies list as the rogue. It's not the best out there, but it serves well enough for the class. Saving throws. Dexterity and charisma are your proficient saving throws. Dexterity is probably the most common saving throw that you'll have to make in the game, or maybe it's tied for the most common along with Constitution, so that's nice to have. Charisma saving throws are far more rare, but their effects can be pretty severe, such as expelling you to a different plane of existence. Skills and tools. You have proficiency with any 3 skills of your choice and any 3 instruments of choice. This makes the bard second only to the rogue when it comes to skill and tool proficiencies. Spellcasting. Starting off at first level, you have spellcasting, which includes the ritual casting sub-feature. Like a sorcerer, you know your spells. You don't prepare them like a wizard, a cleric, or druid, though you know more of them than a sorcerer or warlock does. You are a full spellcaster that gains access to higher spell levels every 2 bard levels, capping out at 9th level spells at bard level 17. Your spell list has a wide variety of effects, from basically all the illusions and charms to control effects like sleep, blindness, hideous laughter, hold person, to a few situationally good damage spells like Thunderwave, Heat Metal, and Synaptic Static, to utility spells like Featherfall, Unseen Servant, Dimension Door, Dispel Magic, and also you do have some good healing options. You get Cure Wounds, Healing Word, Restoration, even Raise Dead and Resurrection. You basically get everything except the very most powerful damage and healing spells, and you don't get a few of the very class-specific type spells. Though mark that with an asterisk, because when we get to magical secrets, even those few limitations are going to be mitigated. Bardic Inspiration. Also at first level, you get Bardic Inspiration. It's one of the most all-around useful support features in 5th edition. As a bonus action, you can inspire someone within 60 feet of you with words or singing. You give that character a d6, which they can later spend, they roll it, and add the bonus to an attack roll, an ability check, or a saving throw. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your charisma modifier, and it resets with a long rest. And the inspiration die increases to a d8 at 5th level, a d10 at 10th level, and a d12 at 15th level. There are also other bard features that will enhance it, and we'll get into that soon. So already at merely 1st level, the bard is a strong class that's shaping up really well. Its downsides are that it isn't incredibly physically tough, it also isn't the highest damage dealing class. Aside from that, even at level 1, it's possibly the most versatile class, being able to do many things well, and some things exceptionally well, along with the fact that you're enhancing everyone around you everywhere you go. While I have not gotten to every 5e D&D class yet, the Bard is the only one that so far has 2 S-tier features at just 1st level. Jack of all trades, 2nd level. You add half your proficiency bonus, rounded down, to any ability check you make that doesn't already have your proficiency bonus added in. So this includes such things as all your untrained skills, your initiative checks, and even dispel magic and counterspell checks against higher level effects. It's pretty damn cool. Just make sure you keep your character sheet well updated. This does start off fairly small at merely a +1 bonus at 2nd level, and you do have to wait all the way till 9th level to get it to +2, and then 17th level to get +3, so it won't always be a game changer, just a tiny edge. Song of Rest, 2nd level. This allows you to weave subtle healing magic into words or music during a rest. When you or an ally spends hit dice, the hit points regained increases by 1d6. These extra hit points increase to 1d8 at 9th level, 1d10 at 13th level, and 1d12 at 17th level. Song of Rest is one of those moderate features that everyone is glad to benefit from, and you can use it every single rest. Expertise, 3rd level. This feature allows you to choose any 2 of your skill proficiencies, and then your proficiency bonus for such checks is doubled. When you reach 10th level, you again get to apply this benefit to 2 more skills. This is basically identical to the Rogue's feature of the same name, though the Rogue has access to it at a bit earlier levels. As I mentioned in my Rogue ranking, I think other classes should get specific expertise features, such as Wizards getting expertise with Arcana, Clerics with Religion, Druids with Nature, and Rangers with Survival. The Artificer should probably get it with Arcana or a set of tools. The effectiveness of this feature can really vary depending upon your campaign. Hopefully you and your DM encourage and give opportunities for skill usage. It adds a whole other layer to the game. There are so many different combinations of skills to have expertise in as a bard. Performance and persuasion for an unrivaled social character. Stealth and deception for a trickster spy. Arcana and History for a lore master. You could ponder these all day if you wanted. Font of Inspiration, 5th level. You now recover all your Bardic Inspiration dice when you complete a short rest. So by 5th level, you can reasonably expect that between each short rest, you're going to give out 4 d8s that allies can apply to virtually any d20 roll. It's such a great feature, it's so useful in every kind of scenario. And it's just fun to give out the inspiration dice and to spend them. Much funner than the old 3E way of everyone getting a flat +1 or +2 while listening to your performance and having to always add in and do that fiddly-piddly math. Counter Charm, 6th level. As an action, you begin a performance, a short magical music or words of power, and it lasts until the end of your next turn. During this time, you and your allies within 30 feet that can hear you gain advantage on saving throws against Charmed and Frightened. This is the first Bard feature that I've come across so far that doesn't quite grab me. I get that this is supposed to be situational, it's also a classic Bard feature, but I think that it would have been better to get a limited usage of this, but you do something more potent, like maybe you make a performance check to just remove the Charmed and Frightened condition from you and your allies. Or what if it's a charm or fear effect that doesn't have a saving throw to end it? What if it's a fear effect that requires you to spend your action to do only dashing until you get somewhere with full cover? Maybe Counter Charm could have been a reaction to stop the charm or fear, like how Counterspell works against spells as they're being cast. As written, Counter Charm is very situational, and it's a questionable feature. I'm sure that somewhere in some moment this will come in handy, but outside of that, your main thing at 6th level is actually your Bard College feature. Magical Secrets, 10th level, and here it is. The glorious Magical Secrets. You learn 2 spells from any class as long as they're of a spell level that you can cast, which 10th level Bard means up to 5th level spells. You learn 2 additional spells from any class at levels 14 and 18. Any class, any 2 spells. Essentially, any limitation or shortcoming that you felt you had as a bard is now removed. Do you wish that you had a high damage spell? Get Fireball or Cone of Cold. Do you wish you could summon creatures? Get Conjure Animals or Conjure Elemental or Summon Greater Demon. How about Fly or Counterspell? How about Telekinesis or Polymorph? This might just be the best class feature that I have seen in all of 5e. Superior Inspiration, 20th level. When you roll initiative and have no uses of Bardic Inspiration remaining, you regain 1. What a disappointment. The Bard deserved so much better for a Capstone feature. If you reach 20th level Bard, you are now a world-renowned magic user, a lorekeeper and song weaver of legendary proportions. You speak words of power that the gods use to form existence from primordial chaos. You can move the human soul on a level so deep that nations rally at your voice. And this is what you get for a 20th level feature. The campaign is most likely in its ending chapter, its last hurrah, yet you get a feature that would make sense for just a low-level character. Bleh! So, other than the turd of a Capstone and the Counter Charm feature that could have been better, the Bard's general class features are really just fantastic. It's already so versatile and so effective, and now we get to add subclass features on top of it all. The College of Lore. Bards across the realms form what they refer to as colleges. Now, these are not brick-and-mortar institutions, but rather loose associations that share esoteric knowledge, techniques, and of course, many a tall tale. The College of Lore values foremost accruing information and arcane secrets. They have a reputation for seeking out the truth and for criticizing those who are self-important, narcissistic, and arrogant.
There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Bonus proficiencies, 3rd level. So remember how I said that rogues are the top class for skills? Well, actually, lore bards are number one in this area. With this feature, you gain 3 additional skill proficiencies of your choice. That means that, including your background, by level 3, you have proficiency in 8 skills, 3 musical instruments, with expertise in 2 of those skills, and jack of all trades for all your non-proficient ability checks.
Skills are complete.
Cutting words, 3rd level. But wait, bonus proficiencies are not the only feature of this level. You also get cutting words, which allows you to use your bardic inspiration dice to impose penalties on enemy attack rolls, ability checks, and damage rolls. You do have to spend your reaction. The enemy must be within 60 feet and able to hear you, and it has to be a creature that can be affected by charm effects. So it's an effective and thematic feature that really broadens the range of what you can do with bardic inspiration. Of course, this gets noticeably better at 5th level when you recover all your bardic inspiration dice with short rests, and the size of your inspiration die begins to increase. Additional magical secrets, 6th level. Coming 4 levels earlier than the general bard feature magical secrets, lore bards get 2 spells from any class's spell list at 6th level. Slow and haste, fly and counterspell, call lightning and conjure animals. The possibilities are so many. This feature is one of those rare greats that combines fun, flavor, and power. Peerless skill, 14th level. Whenever you make an ability check, you can roll an inspiration die and add the number to the result. This is one way to get some of the highest possible skill results in all of 5e. Imagine a bard at, say, 15th level with a +5 charisma bonus, +10 to persuasion due to expertise, and you include in peerless skill. That's 1d20 plus 1d12 plus 15, which is a range of 17 to 47. And there's probably some spell or magic item out there that could boost it even a bit more. This is how to persuade a god. This is how you could get a demon lord to consider abandoning the blood war and pursuing lawful good ideals. However, that said, this feature is somewhat situational, and you are now dividing your inspiration dice between bolstering your allies, cutting down enemy rolls, and improving your own skill checks. And, in the end, there's nothing inherently high level about this feature. You could have got it back at 3rd level and no one would have known the difference. In other words, I did expect something a bit better. The lore bard is fantastic and really just enhances the baseline bard features, taking them all to the next level. The College of Valor. This college reveres foremost great heroes and legendary figures. Valor bards are like skalds, preserving the stories and epics of a people, and carrying the torch of keeping such inspirations alive. They are likely to be found alongside warriors and champions, and they thrill in participating firsthand in glorious deeds as they happen.
Valiant never tasted death but once.
Bonus proficiencies, 3rd level. You gain proficiency with medium armor, shields, and all martial weapons. This feature helps make you a viable secondary fighter, slightly tougher than the average bard, but less tough than a fighter or barbarian. Unfortunately, there are some points you'll come across that might make this feature fall short of greatness. Consider how you'll want charisma for your spells and bardic inspiration, of course. Then you'll want constitution and dexterity to be more effective as someone who gets involved with physical combat. Then at this point you'll realize that you can only add a max of 2 dexterity bonus to your AC when wearing medium armor, so the medium armor may not even be of help. Using a shield is a great +2 to your AC, and that's really nice. But then you realize that you already had proficiency with the rapier, which is the best finesse one-handed melee weapon. And in order to really utilize the full damage-dealing potential of martial weapons, like great swords, great axes, and halberds, you also would have to have a good strength score and not use that shield. Furthermore, while using a sword and shield, both your hands are occupied, and you cannot cast spells that have somatic components. which are many of the spells, most spells really. Unless, of course, you take the Warcaster feat, that opens up the possibility. For the life of me, I can't understand why the designers didn't just design this feature to allow you to perform spell gestures with a hand that's holding a weapon, and even treat that weapon as an arcane focus. So you could instead use a longbow or a heavy crossbow, which increases your damage and your range compared to simple ranged weapons, and I think that is a decently viable option. Though an archer isn't exactly what first comes to mind when we think of a character based around Valor. So perhaps a bit of a thematic clash instead of a mechanics clash. The Valor Bard's bonus proficiencies does provide some nice benefits. It also causes you to run up against certain limitations. Combat Inspiration, 3rd level. Your allies now have 2 additional usages of your Bardic Inspiration dice. They can spend inspiration dice to increase weapon damage rolls, or, even more importantly, to increase their AC as a reaction against enemy attacks. The damage increase could be nice in certain situations, it's not exactly huge, but the increase to AC is really good. It's certain to save your allies' hide from time to time. Extra Attack, 6th level. Just like the warrior classes such as Fighter, Barbarian, Ranger, and Paladin, you can now make 2 attacks with the attack action. Again, you have to do this balancing act between ability scores, and in the end, you're not as potent offensively nor defensively as the full warriors, so extra attack doesn't serve you as much as them. This also brings my attention to a bothersome inconsistency. On the very first page of the Bard entry in the player's handbook, it describes bards are capable of defending themselves in melee if necessary, using their magic to bolster their swords and armor. What specifically is this referring to? You cannot give bardic inspiration to yourself, so you can't use that to increase your attacks or damage rolls or your AC. There aren't any first level bard spells that bolster swords or armor, neither at 2nd level, neither at 3rd level, nor 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, there are none. Wait, is this referring to the cantrips Blade Ward and True Strike? It can't be. Those cantrips are terrible. Not only are they worthless for a bard, they don't actually bolster swords and armor. Maybe that line of text refers to you using your Magical Secrets feature at level 10 to get an armament-enhancing spell from another class. I don't know, it certainly doesn't read that way. Let's see. Well, of course there's the Wizard's Shield spell, and Magic Weapon spell, which is... The Cleric has Shield of Faith. The Paladin has some good ones. There's the Smite spells, and Holy Weapon, and Elemental Weapon. It seems odd that the phrasing bards use their magic would actually refer to them using spells from other classes through magical secrets that you only get at level 10 and beyond. Do you want to know what the answer is? It's easy. The person who wrote that line of text didn't actually confirm with the person who was finalizing all the spells or the person who was finalizing all the bard features to make sure that bards actually had something magical that bolstered their armor and weapons. So it's a great concept, it's something that easily comes to everyone's mind. I sure wish they actually would have included it in the game. Battle Magic, 14th level. You can now weave magic and weapons together. When you use an action to cast a bard spell, you can follow it up with a basic weapon attack as a bonus action. How is that different than the Eldritch Knight Fighter's War Magic feature that it gets at 6th level? Okay, War Magic only works off of cantrips. So kind of like what we saw with the armor and weapon proficiencies, this probably works better in tandem with a bow. And the thought of following up nearly every spell that you cast with an arrow shot, or maybe a sword strike, is really quite nice. This really rewards you for making it all the way to level 14 Valor Bard. This subclass, in the long run, probably is close to the Lore Bard. It just has some small wrinkles and potential awkwardness to work through. And that's it for the Player's Handbook Bard colleges. There's only those 2 in the core book. So let's move on to Xanathar's Guide to Everything. The College of Glamour. Drawing upon the original meaning of the word glamour, this bard college focuses on charms and trickery. It has a fae theme. Perhaps you actually spent time developing your craft in the Feywild, or perhaps you were tutored by someone who dwelled in the Feywild. Do you use your mind-affecting abilities for your own entertainment? How about for revenge, for selfish gain or pleasure or entertainment? Or maybe you use them for some just cause.
This is such stuff as dreams are made of.
Mantle of Inspiration, 3rd level. As a bonus action, you weave a song of Fey magic, targeting a number of creatures equal to or less than your charisma modifier within 60 feet. Each of them gain 5 temporary hit points, and each one can spend its reaction to move up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks. The amount of temporary hit points increases to 8 at 5th level, 11 at 10th level, and 14 at 15th level. This is quite an effective usage of Bardic Inspiration, sort of a mass healing word plus a safe repositioning maneuver all in one. Enthralling Performance, 3rd level. Whenever you perform for at least 1 minute, you can imbue your singing, your poetry, dancing, or whatnot with this alluring Fey magic. A number of humanoids up to your charisma modifier who observed your performance must make wisdom saving throws or become charmed by you for an hour, acting as your star-struck and adoring fans. The charm breaks for a target if you take hostile actions towards them or their allies. Furthermore, a target that succeeds on the saving throw does not perceive that any enchantment or magical effect was at work. You can use Enthralling Presence once per short rest. This is everything that a low-level character could ask for in terms of a mass enthrall type ability, and the possibilities of what you can do with this are nearly endless. Mantle of Majesty, 6th level. You take on an appearance of otherworldly beauty. As a bonus action, you cast the command spell without spending a spell slot. For a duration of 1 minute, as though you are concentrating on a spell, you can cast command as a bonus action on each of your turns, including that first turn. A creature that is charmed by you automatically fails its saving throw against your command. You can use Mantle of Majesty once per long rest. Oh my, this is amazing. It takes all the greatness of the enthralling performance and just cranks things up a notch higher. And even if you don't have any charmed targets currently, using command as a bonus action each turn for a minute is just amazing in terms of control. Now there are some situations in which this won't work. Maybe you're in a situation where you are or you have to remain farther than 60 feet away from your target, so they're just going to be out of range. It also does not work against undead, nor does it work against creatures that cannot understand your speech. And I can also imagine how against a mob of a lot of little monsters, it probably isn't going to be so effective. Also, you could potentially get knocked out of your concentration, so there are some drawbacks and limitations to it, but also there's going to be many situations in which this ability is going to alter the entire course of the encounter. Unbreakable Majesty, 14th level. At this point, you become even more beautiful and fierce. As a bonus action, you can assume a majestic presence for 1 minute. During this time, whenever a creature tries to attack you, for the first time on a turn, it must succeed on a charisma saving throw or else be unable to attack you this turn. Even if it does save, it then goes on to get disadvantage on its saves against your spells on your next turn. So this is like an advanced version of the Sanctuary spell, as you yourself can still keep fighting without breaking the effect, and the enemy is going to suffer a drawback even if it makes its saving throw. Also, you can use this feature once every short rest. Another gold quality feature right here. The bar was set really high with the lore and the Valor bards, and Glamour does not disappoint. Everything about it is full of effectiveness, flavor, and tons of potential for role-playing. The College of Swords. The bards of this group are called Blades. They are both skilled performers and deft warriors. Some of them have been known for their involvement in thieves' guilds or even assassinations. Others are more neutral characters who just keep to their own personal pursuits. And others still fight for noble causes, utilizing their skills for the sake of good deeds.
Is there a dagger such as this in our hand for me?
Bonus proficiencies, 3rd level. You gain proficiency with medium armor, but not shields, and you also gain proficiency with the scimitar. Okay. That's not really a big deal, as bards already have daggers, short swords, long swords, and rapiers anyhow. The real benefit of this feature is that you can use a weapon as a spellcasting focus for your bard spells. Thank you, and my regrets to the Valor Bard. However, this still does not address the bigger issue of needing a free hand for somatic components. So if you intend to dual wield, you're in an awkward position of having to constantly keep track of sheathing, drawing, dropping, picking up one of your swords, or you're just going to have to try to get away with overlooking the somatic portion of spellcasting. Fighting style, 3rd level. Drawing from the fighter class here, you gain a fighting style. However, you're limited to either just dueling or 2-weapon fighting options. This is nice, but I see it as a glaring missed opportunity to introduce some new fighting styles. At least just 2 more that would fit a bard acrobat type theme. Speaking of which, why didn't that bonus proficiencies feature give you proficiency in acrobatics or athletics? Blade Flourish, also 3rd level, so there's still more to go at level 3. Whenever you take the attack action on your turn, your speed increases by 10 feet for that turn, and if you hit with your attack, you can employ one of your Blade Flourishes, which are reminiscent of the Battle Master's combat maneuvers. There are 3, Defensive Flourish, Slashing Flourish, and Mobile Flourish. Defensive Flourish says you can spend a Bardic Inspiration die, and you roll it, add the result to the weapon damage that you just did, and you also add it to your AC until the start of your next turn. That's quite nice. I bet the fighter is jealous. Slashing Flourish also allows you to spend the Bardic Inspiration die and add the result to the weapon damage that you're dealing, and you also add that extra weapon damage die to another creature that's within 5 feet of you automatically. Well, it's not great, but it's actually a little better than the fighter's pathetic sweeping attack. And Mobile Flourish says, again, you spend that Bardic Inspiration die, you add the result to the weapon damage, and you push the target number of feet equal to 5 plus the result of the Inspiration die that you just rolled. As you're doing this, you can also spend your reaction and move up to your speed to a space that's within 5 feet of the target. This option is a bit situational, but you can do some great things with it. You could push the target away from a vulnerable ally, you could push it off of a cliff or into a pit, you could push it into a spell area of effect of your own or of an ally's, so it can really shine in those situations. If only Booming Blade was a bard cantrip. Damn you, Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide.
Is this a dagger I see before me?
Extra attack, 6th level. Just like with the Valor Bard, you get 2 attacks when you use the attack action, though I think this feature serves the Swords Bard a little more, due to the blade flourishes and the focus on being a bit more of a warrior. Also, there's a decent chance that you will be dual wielding, so if you have your bonus action available, you'll actually be making 3 attacks total. This makes you a decent secondary fighter. Just be smart with how you go about your tactics in battle. Master's Flourish, 14th level. Whenever you use a Blade Flourish, you can roll a d6 instead of expending a Bardic Inspiration die. This is just fantastic. So let's assume you hit once per turn and used only Defensive Flourish. That means you're adding 1d6 to your damage and your AC every single round that you're making weapon attacks. The only downside is that you're going to have to decide between casting a spell or attacking and flourishing. Also, as I explained previously, the Bard's own spell list lacks spells to bolster or enhance or buff, as the kids call it, which would make this full caster yet a warrior thing function a lot better. I have to say, I'm impressed by the Swords Bard. It's similar to the Valor Bard, yet different in some distinct ways. Definitely it's the most fighter-like of all the bard subclasses. My only nitpick is I just wish it had more blade flourishes and fighting style options. The College of Whispers. Do you think I'm gonna whisper this entire subclass? Yeah, probably not. In Xanathar's Guide to Everything, the sorcerer got the Shadow Sorcerer. The cleric got the Grave Domain Cleric. The ranger got the Gloom Stalker. And the bard got the College of Whispers Bard. While he might appear to be a typical bard, under the surface, the Whispers Bard holds dark secrets and intentions to infiltrate, subvert, and manipulate.
Life's but a walking shadow.
Psychic Blade. Psychic Blades, 3rd level. Once per round on your turn, when you hit a creature with weapon attack, you can expend 1 use of Bardic Inspiration and deal an extra 2d6 psychic damage to the target. The damage increases to 3d6 at 5th level, 5d6 at 10th level, and 8d6 at 15th level. Well, this is certainly effective. It's functioning like a secondary sneak attack. The narrative side of it requires a bit of mental gymnastics, however. I'm not quite sure how inspiration translates into psychic damage. Perhaps this is the bard's way of doing a dark remix or a metal cover. Words of Terror, 3rd level. This is kind of the scary counterpart to the Glamour bard's enthralling performance. When you speak to a humanoid for at least 1 minute, you can attempt to instill terror in their mind. The target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become frightened of you or another creature of your choice for 1 hour. This fear effect does end if you take hostile actions against the target or its allies, and you can use this only once per short rest. Oh, also, if the target succeeds on the wisdom saving throw, it's actually unaware that you tried to magically frighten it. I think enthralling performance overall is a little better, but Words of Terror is still cool. It's definitely something that you're going to be using in social interaction scenes, perhaps even as a lead-in to combat, and it really plays into the extortionist theme of the Whispers Bard. Mantle of Whispers, 6th level. When a humanoid dies within 30 feet of you, you can use your reaction to capture its shadow. You can then expend that shadow later as an action, which gives you the appearance of the person, and I can only assume the voice as well. You get it for 1 hour. While in this disguise, you learn the basic information and details about the person, but not his secrets or deep knowledge. If someone might discover your ruse, you gain a +5 bonus to your deception check to bluff them. And you can use this feature once per short rest. So, in a way, I love this. I actually think it's one of the coolest bard features that I've read yet. The skill challenge, role-playing challenge potential that is in this is really just amazing. And I want to rate it higher, but it is quite situational, really situational. The target has to be a humanoid and it has to die in front of you. And it's not really anything that's different than what you can already pull off through skills and spells. You have things like Charm Person, Disguise Self, and Detect Thoughts. These can get you similar results. You can just interrogate someone, or you can spy on them, or you can gather information about them in secret. You can also use a disguise kit to pose as people. Like I said, Mantle of Whispers is a really inspiring and provocative feature, and quite effective at what it does, but it has some big caveats and in the end just doesn't accomplish anything incredibly different than what you could just do anyways. Shadow Lore, 14th level. So this one's name is slightly off, as you don't directly gain any lore, but rather a magical whisper ability. So finally, at 14th level, the Whispers Bard gains a whisper effect. With this, you whisper to a creature within 30 feet that can hear and understand you. It makes a wisdom saving throw against charm. On a failure, you charm the target, for 8 hours actually, and the target believes that you know its deepest, darkest, most crushing secret. Accompanying this, the person has a sense of deep dread or paranoia that you're going to reveal said dark secret. Therefore, he's going to comply with most instructions that you give him, short of risking his life or fighting for you, which actually those would be the best things that it could do. Anyhow, when the effect ends, the creature cannot understand why it was so scared of you, and you regain this ability with a long rest. I love the concept, and I think this feature will lead to some interesting role-playing and story development, so I heartily applaud that. But something seems missing here. In the end, it's just charm with an extra flair to it, and it still ends if you take hostile actions against the target. And that's it. Couldn't you accomplish this same exact effect through just skills and maybe a spell to mix? Yes, you could. So I like the idea, but the mechanics need to be reworked and strengthened. I give the College of Whispers appreciation for being different. It seems slightly off here and there, but it's still a darkly worthwhile subclass. Xanathar's guide really did right by the Bard class, and I'm proud to say that. Let's see now, does the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide have a Bard subclass in it? Oh wow, 3 more? The College of Fashluken, the College of New Olam, and the College of Herald. Oh wait. No, they actually didn't create any features for them. They're just the College of Lore with bits of Forgotten Realms setting reskinned onto it. I would call this lazy or even disappointing, but after some of the turds that we've seen come out of this book, maybe it's for the better that the Bard essentially got skipped over here. And so I call to the bards from far and wide, from hither and thither, from yonder and near. Let us sing your praise in the theater of gods and man. In 5th place is the College of Whispers. 4th place brings us the College of Valor. 3rd place belongs to the College of Lore. 2nd place goes to the College of Swords. And in 1st place, let us gasp in awe before the College of Glamour. This was a real treat for me getting to delve into my namesake class. And truly, what an awesome job 5e has done with it. The College of Whispers, I believe, could use a little bit of improvement, but all the others are just fantastic, and really with each of these entries, I could imagine myself making an inspiring new character of that subclass. I really think that the Bard subclass embodies tabletop role-playing itself. This idea has been staying with me. Think about it. The Bard has a lot of different variety all in one class, and variety represents all the wondrous variety of options that we find throughout the game, amongst all the classes, races, monsters, spells, items, and so on. It has inspiration, and this represents the inspiration that we feel to create characters and to go on adventures. Bards are foremost storytellers, and this represents the soul of RPGs, which are stories that we tell and stories that we are a part of. The Bard has theatrics, and this represents the dramatization of characters and creatures that we act out each and every session. All of this and more are contained within the work of art that is the Bard. The praise that I give also extends to the other classes, however. For the Bard needs and truly relies upon allies of other classes in order for it to really shine. After all, what is a singer with no one to hear his song? What is a dungeon master with no one to play in his campaign? What is a YouTube channel without a single viewer watching the videos? So I hope this moment of joy can be a moment of joy that is actually shared amongst all of the Bard's companions. And from me to all of you, thank you truly for being a part of this channel. Giving you inspiration dice is something that brings me a deep sense of satisfaction and purpose. With majestic motivation running through me, I am off to go compose my next creative work. Be sure to subscribe and check me out on Patreon. And until next time, may your adventures be many.